This is a story of survival that is hard to put into words. The bravery of 8-year-old Jennifer Schuett is beyond measure, and her actions in critical circumstances are remarkable. It's a rare case where the victim aided in apprehending her attacker despite losing her ability to speak due to a horrific injury. Jennifer survived, retaining every detail over 19 years. She relentlessly continued to pursue her own case, and in the end, she got her way.
You ever heard the name Jennifer Schuett?
Yes.
Did you ever have occasion to come in contact with her?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
No.
Jennifer Schuett, an 8-year-old schoolgirl, had recently finished school. She lived with her single mother, Elaine, who did everything possible to ensure her daughter's happiness and well-being. Elaine worked multiple jobs to support the family and provide Jennifer with a joyful childhood surrounded by such love and care. Jennifer blossomed into a lively and cheerful child, embracing, learning with enthusiasm, and displaying a keen intellect and curiosity. At such a young age, children are often afraid of the dark, and Jennifer was no exception. She had a fear of the dark and frequently slept alongside her mother in the same room.
As far as I can remember, back in my childhood, I just didn't like the dark or sleeping alone, so I found comfort in going to bed with my mom. We were all that we had, was each other.
That night, on August 9, 2009, the mother and daughter slept in the same room. Jennifer was tossing and turning, kicking her mom in sleep, making it difficult for her to fall asleep. Unusually, at 2:30 a.m., Elaine woke up and asked Jennifer to go back to her own room for the rest of the night because she needed to get up early for work. Understandingly, Jennifer responded to her mother saying, "Just because I love you, Mom, I'm going to sleep in my own room tonight," and went to her room. Elaine would later regret this decision for a long time, but at that moment she couldn't know what would happen next. The following morning, Elaine discovered that Jennifer was missing when she went to wake her up. She noticed that the window facing the parking lot was wide open. Elaine promptly called 911. Upon the police's arrival, she recounted that she hadn't heard any noise or screams after Jennifer went to her room. It is worth mentioning that their apartment was on the first floor and the windows in Jennifer's room overlooked the parking lot, leading Elaine to fear that someone might have seen Jennifer and entered the room through the window. Bellin realized that their apartment was not the ideal living situation for her and her young daughter, but it was the best they could afford at the time. Nevertheless, Elaine's parents decided to help her and their granddaughter with a new place to live. They purchased a small house nearby and renovated it. Jennifer and her mother were supposed to move there in a few months, and they had been there the day before Jennifer went missing. They were working in the garden where Jennifer was bitten by mosquitoes, which prevented her from sleeping peacefully that night. After her daughter's disappearance, Elaine was devastated. She said that Jennifer was all she had and pleaded for her return. The police worked tirelessly to locate her. Luckily, Elaine didn't have to wait long for news. Around 6:30 p.m. that same day, the police received a call from parents whose children were playing in a field and accidentally stumbled upon something. To their horror, they realized it was the body of a young girl. Upon arriving at the scene, the police found the body of 8-year-old Jennifer Schuett lying in the middle of the field 5 kilometers from her home. Jennifer's condition was grave, but she was still breathing.
Jennifer's condition was grave. Her throat had been cut from ear to ear.
The main life-threatening injury for Jennifer was a wide wound on her throat, which caused her to lose a lot of blood and made her extremely pale and weak. Jennifer was taken to the hospital in critical condition where doctors fought to save her life.
When I first saw Jennifer in the emergency room, I mean, she was a fairly small 8-year-old, very pale, covered with ant bites and scratches on her back. She couldn't make any sounds. because of the injury that she had to her neck.
Fortunately, after the operation, Jennifer's condition stabilized and the bleeding stopped.
We completed her surgery. Her airway is stable. She's not bleeding. So we're very hopeful about her survival.
When she regained consciousness after the surgery, her behavior underwent a sudden change. It turned out that she was afraid of all men.
I was kind of a hard patient to deal with because I had a lot of male doctors and I was scared of males.
Additionally, the Dickinson Police Department deployed a whole team to guard her hospital room. Throughout this time, Jennifer was in a constant state of panic. She even hit a doctor in the stomach when he tried to approach her. Elaine tried to reassure her daughter, explaining that all these people were there to care for her and help her. However, Jennifer didn't trust anyone. Her behavior became more understandable when she finally revealed what had happened to her that night.
We knew that we had a survivor that couldn't speak. The challenges were to extract information from her. Now, we're talking about an 8-year-old. It was difficult.
Jennifer could not directly inform the investigator of anything to obtain any information. The detectives gave her a notebook and several pens, asking her to answer questions in writing due to her fear of men. Jennifer wrote notes to her mother, who then passed them to the officer. Jennifer's responses were surprisingly precise, detailing the events accurately. Despite being only 8 years old, she displayed remarkable intelligence for her age. She started by going into her room, turning on the light and picking up a book to read, hoping it would help her sleep, which it did. Jennifer fell asleep. The next thing she knew, a stranger was carrying her out of the house.
He was running with me, carrying me down the sidewalk, and I immediately tried to scream, but he covered my nose and mouth.
Afterward, he placed Jennifer in the car, claiming to be an undercover police officer. She later confessed that she immediately felt that something was wrong. Looking around, she saw her mother's car in the parking lot, so she was confused about where they were going and why. On the one hand, she knew that the police were good guys, but on the other hand, her mother had taught her not to trust strangers.
As a child, I wanted to believe him, but the part of me that had just learned about strangers in school, the part of me that was scared of the dark, knew that there was something really wrong here.
As they passed her grandparents' house, Jennifer told the stranger that he could drop her off at their house, to which he replied, "I can't because they're not home." And then she realized he was lying because their car was in the driveway. Later, the man stopped near Jennifer's school, about 3 kilometers from her home. He then said to watch the moon carefully when it changed color. Her mother would come for her.
I remember anxiously waiting for those headlights, but they never came. I think that at that point he was trying to psych himself up for what he really intended to do.
5 minutes passed and the stranger said, "Well, your mom's not coming, so we need to go further." They drove a few more blocks to a dead-end street where the stranger stopped the car. Jennifer tried once again to make sure he was a real policeman.
I was kind of interrogating him. I was wanting him to prove to me that he was a police officer. I wanted to know, where's your gun? Where's your badge? He told me once parked that his gun was in the back seat.
Jennifer turned around to search for it, and at that moment, the suspicious policeman took off her underwear. Jennifer is unsure of how long she was in the stranger's grip because she blacked out. She first regained consciousness when he was dragging her through the field by her ankles. Despite the excruciating pain from twigs and stones digging into her back, Jennifer pretended to be dead and stayed silent, realizing this was her chance to survive. He let go of her feet and left her in the field. Jennifer only heard him walking away. Then she heard his car door slam and him drive away.
I realized I couldn't scream, and I couldn't figure out why. I had just enough strength to throw my right hand on top of my neck, And that's when I felt this gaping wound. And I looked at my hand and it was full of blood.
Since the exact time of Jennifer's disappearance is unknown, it is believed that she lay in the field for 12 to 14 hours. When the sun set, she saw the lights of passing cars nearby. She heard children's voices and a dog approached her several times, as if trying to get the attention of its owner. But he never came throughout. She was bitten by fire ants, which helped her stay conscious.
Every time I would come to, I would be in disbelief that I hadn't died yet.
Jennifer said she wasn't afraid and had even accepted that she might not survive. But suddenly she heard children's voices nearby, and at that moment, something hit her leg. The next time Jennifer regained consciousness, she heard a police officer repeating,
"You've been found, you're gonna be okay, just please stay with me, please stay with me." And I remember being put into the life flight helicopter.
This story was very challenging for young Jennifer as she couldn't speak and had to write everything down on paper. Moreover, her fear of men complicated the situation. So her mother asked all the questions, and Jennifer's answers were relayed to the officers who were behind the door incredibly. 8-year-old Jennifer even managed to get the stranger's name from him.
I just remember remembering his name. And so I wrote, he said his name was Dennis. I remember saying that he looked greasy and like he may have had a scar or something on his face.
4 days after her disappearance, the police requested the services of forensic artist Lois Gibson, who communicated with Jennifer solely through gestures and notes. 4 days after her disappearance, the police requested the services of forensic artist Lois Gibson, who communicated with Jennifer solely through gestures and notes. Jennifer's recovery was gradual. She showed remarkable resilience despite still being a child. There was a moment when she got upset over a chocolate bar she couldn't eat, screamed in frustration, and a faint sound escaped her mouth. Doctors were shocked because her vocal cords were almost severed and they never expected them to heal. But somehow they began to mend.
I like to say I haven't shut up since.
Soon after Jennifer was discharged from the hospital, she not only returned home, but also went back to school after completing her schooling and college education. Jennifer decided to pursue a career as a children's librarian. However, she never forgot what happened that night. Each day felt like a hunt for the criminal.
It could be anyone. This could be our new neighbor. This could be someone at the post office, someone at the grocery store. Is he watching us? Is he going to come back and finish me off?
Fortunately, Jennifer met a guy named Jonathan, and for the first time in many years, she trusted a man and they fell in love. However, at the same time, the trail of her attacker grew colder. The chances of him being found were slim, and the case showed no progress, despite being passed from one investigator to another. 18 years after that dreadful night, Jennifer received a phone call.
I got a phone call that Detective Tim Cromie would be taking over my case and he wanted to meet with me.
Tim Cromie promised to do everything possible to catch the criminal, and Jennifer believed him.
And I told her, I said, Jennifer, I will do whatever I can do in my power till the end of my career to get you the answers that you need for this case.
Tim decided to bring in FBI Special Agent Richard Renison to the case. Richard had previously worked for the Dickinson, Texas police before joining the FBI. Tim and Richard discovered the significant amount of evidence collected on the day Jennifer went missing, and immediately after she was found, with Jennifer's underwear being particularly crucial, as well as the perpetrator's shirt and underwear. They sent a DNA sample found on the clothing to Quantico, Virginia. Although detectives knew that technology had advanced significantly in 19 years, they understood that the case's age meant it would not be a priority in the lab.
Often in working cold cases, time is your enemy. People forget, people move away, people die. This was one of the benefits of time in our case, was the advances of technology in the DNA field.
Despite a whole year passing, their work was rewarded. The man whose DNA was found at the crime scene was Dennis Earl Bradford.
Who? Who was that?
the same man Jennifer had written down many years ago. It turned out that the 8-year-old girl had been incredibly accurate in her descriptions.
Jennifer was 8 years old, on pain medication, couldn't speak, and hand wrote down, he said his name was Dennis. At that point, it was monumental that this girl was so accurate. Of course, later we found out how accurate she was on everything.
Dennis Bradford, 39, lived in North Little Rock, Arkansas, and his DNA was logged into the national database. Following an assault on a woman he met at a bar in 1996. Although sentenced to 12 years in prison, he only served 4. On February 4, 2000, Dennis was conditionally released, less than a year later. Police arrested Bradford for driving under the influence less than half a mile from his home. He remarried and worked as a welder until his arrest in 2009. Tim Crummy and Richard Renison investigated the link between the suspect from North Little Rock, Arkansas, and the small town of Dickinson, Texas. It turned out that the man had been arrested in Dickinson in 1987, 3 years before Jennifer's attack. At that time, he had 2 addresses within 2 miles of Jennifer and Elaine's apartment, to confirm his identity as the kidnapper. Detectives requested a 19-year-old photo from his driver's license. When they saw the picture, they were stunned. He looked like a copy of the composite sketch created with the help of 8-year-old Jennifer.
You ever heard the name Jennifer Schuett?
Yes.
Did you ever have occasion to come in contact with her?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
No.
I can tell, obviously this affects you a lot, but I think you would, if you were to see her, I think you would be extremely proud of her. I really do.
Oh, thank you. She's alive.
Yes, she's alive.
She's alive.
She's alive. Incredible young.
Oh, God. Oh, you have no idea how hard I have prayed for that. I'm a firm believer of Christ. But I had no idea. Because it wasn't but about 2 days later I ran. And I just took off.
Dennis Earl Bradford was arrested on October 19, 2009. He insisted he didn't know. Jennifer couldn't recall why he had stopped near her apartment and couldn't comprehend why he had treated her so cruelly. Dennis also revealed an interesting detail that investigators didn't know after the attack. He was overwhelmed with guilt, and he attempted suicide with a shotgun. Bradford wanted to pull the trigger, but changed his mind afterward. He was admitted to the psychiatric ward, which happened to be the same hospital that Jennifer was still in. Even at that time, he was so close to her. Immediately after the interrogation, detectives informed Jennifer that the criminal they had been searching for 19 years was arrested.
When they called me that morning and told me that they really arrested this person, Dennis Earl Bradford, it was the most surreal moment of my life. Meant everything to me.
Later, Jennifer Schuett expressed her gratitude to the detectives for fulfilling their promise.
Above all, I'd like to thank Detective Tim Cromie with the Dickinson Police Department and Special Agent Richard Renison with the FBI for all of their hard work and dedication over the last year and a half, and for his promise from day one, never giving up on my case, and for hearing my voice and seeing my determination.
She also admitted her anticipation of facing Dennis Bradford in the courtroom since Bradford was willing to plead guilty and not drag out the trial. Jennifer was given the opportunity to select a court date. She chose August 10, the 20th anniversary of the attack.
I remember staying up late, endless nights, trying to perfect my victim impact statement, writing and erasing and writing again and erasing again, just trying to perfect what I wanted to say. I had 19 years worth of things to say to this person.
However, it was not meant to happen. On May 10, 2010, a few months before the trial, Dennis hung himself in his jail cell, feeling that her right to see the case through to the end had been taken away. Jennifer went to Dennis's grave and read aloud what she wanted to say in court.
Dennis Bradford, you chose the wrong little 45-pound, 8-year-old girl to try and murder, because for 19 years, I've thought of you every single day and helped in searching for you. In my heart, I knew you were out there. And now I know, listening to my heart all of these years and never giving up on finding you, I was right.
After finishing her speech, Jennifer turned to her husband and said, "I wonder if he heard me." At that moment, a fiery ant bit her leg. Jennifer took it as a sign from God that he had heard her loud and clear, despite the horrific events caused by Dennis's actions. Jennifer faced yet another challenge in life as a result of the trauma caused by Dennis. Jennifer almost lost the ability to conceive a child. However, amidst the darkness, there are shining examples of kindness, such as Dr. Craig, which after hearing Jennifer's story, he generously offered his services to her twice free of charge. At the end of 2012, the couple welcomed their daughter Jenna and later their son Jonah.
It's like, pinch me, who would have thought? They're really my happy ending.
Although the criminal tried to silence her and take away her right to be a mother, he failed. Jennifer desires for her story to be shared, not for her own sake, but for others who have endured similar ordeals and must cope with them every day. She says, "We've gone through something in life that we can talk about, but it's worth sharing it with others to instill hope. I hope this inspires you to use your voice to help someone else," Jennifer added at the end.
I'm not a victim, but instead victorious.
Thank you for watching to the end. Kindly like this video and subscribe to the channel for more. See you in our next video. Bye.